Yo, gonna record a quick video here for any feral druids in Wrath Classic, either bear or cat, but off-specking the other. It's important to know that some of the items that are in your BiS lists are BiS for both specs, and so you kind of have to pick one as the ideal, like, what are you going to enchant, what are you going to gem on the item. You kind of have to prioritize one of the specs over the other, and then the other spec loses out a little bit. So, for example, for me, I'm maining cat right now, and I'm off-specking bear. So if I want to get a bear set, for example, currently the BiS setup for bear, in terms of like if you're going mitigation leaning on like Wowhide and stuff like that, uses 4 items that are overlapped with the feral list, and that's the bracers, the shoulders, the boots, and the legs. All the other items are different, and so you can gem and enchant them however you would like, but these are the best like gems and enchants for these items. You do a 8 crit, 8 agility gem in the boots, unless you're horde. If you're horde, then you would put, I believe, a 16 hit gem in here, and then it's just 16 strength in the other slots, in the red slots, and then the tier in the pants. The enchanted tier, I should say. You might want to have an expertise gem as one of your red gems. For me, I'm going to put that in my belt because I know I have the polar cord already. It's easy to get this BOE. And this is also a good slot where you can swap all 3 of your dragon's eyes, is just the belt slot. But in bear, you don't need any extra expertise. So I don't want any of these strength gems to be the expertise 16 expertise gem. So I'm keeping them as strength for now. If you're, and this is also, I'm playing cat as bear weaving, so I'm gemming strength. If you were just like mono cat, whatever, you could probably gem agility in these, and that would be also equivalent, and that would be slightly better for bear. Anyway, you can mix and match a little bit based on what you're doing. Essence of Gossamer could also be greatness, or the other jewel crafting trinket, or sonic booster. The other jewel crafting trinket, I have monarch. I forget the name of this thing exactly. Monarch Crab. The other one is Ruby something. Maybe it's not. It's. What is the other trinket? Or maybe it's because I don't have the profession enabled. That's why. It's this thing, Ruby Hair. This is 1 less stamina than Essence of Gossamer, but it gives you a movement speed cooldown on 3 minutes. Personally, I would value the barrier on Essence of Gossamer better, just because it means you need like 1 less heal in a fight, and that's maybe 1 more cast that your healers can do damage. I don't know that the speed is really that needed, since you'll already have Nitro Boots, and you already have Cat Dash if you're also, and you have like Feral Charge and stuff too, right? So personally, I devalued the movement speed, but whatever. Again, up to you, up your choice or whatever. Or Sonic Booster, or realistically Greatness. For a lot of other people, I currently don't have Greatness. We're going to save up, eventually get it, but I started out with 0 gold. Okay, so anyway, point is, if you want to have this set up for bear, if I go to like defenses here, for example, this has 37% avoidance, 8700 armor, and then go to melee, it has 3%, 22%, I would say 9% haste, and then gets expertise gap, has 1900 attack power, right? And so you can see on the equivalency points, this is the feral like mitigation equivalency points or whatever that are also in the Wowhead guide. It's at 40k.5. If you go for the whole bear setup, that is about 1k higher, 1.1k higher, but you can see you lose out a fair bit of attack power. So it's not a direct comparison, because you are getting some value out of the Savage Defenses ability and stuff like that, so that your attack power is converted into defenses a little bit, and you gain a slight tiny bit of armor, a slight tiny bit of avoidance, right? But like overall, these 2 setups are pretty comparable. The attack power is like the main difference, and it could even be argued that this is like a better setup. But let's say you wanted to go even more defensively than this. The first suggestion I would make is that you get Polar Boots and swap those out, and then you could also, instead of gemming Nitro Boots in here, if you didn't want the movement speed for some reason, you could do Tuskar's Vitality, or Greater Fortitude, or a armor kit, a heavy Borean armor kit are in here. Boar speed, like there's a couple of other options for like if you want movement speed, if you don't want movement speed, if you just want stamina, you would generally go Greater Fortitude. Otherwise, the Tuskar's Vitality gives you some movement speed. These other things are just like cheaper alternatives, right? So it's, whatever. And then the other swap you do is you do thrusting bands instead of Sinner's bindings. Oops. So you swap those two items. So now you're only down to the legs and the shoulders as your two items that have overlap, right? Again, also if you're doing bear weaving and you're buying the greatness card, you would either buy the strength or the agility card depending on what you're doing, right? That's another choice thing here. Okay, so that's another option. Here you get a little bit lower attack power. You get a little bit higher hit chance. I'm also currently putting a hit stamina gem in here to activate the socket bonus. You lose 3 stamina, but you gain 8 hit rating. Personally, I'm valuing that for the threat and the DPS like bonus. It's technically higher in terms of equivalency points, but it's within 1 or 2, and so it's really a preference. You could just double 24 stamina gem in this thing also, and that's the same for all these setups. Here we're slightly over the expertise cap. I think we have slightly less haste, slightly less crit, but again, if we go back to defense, also slightly less avoidance, about the same armor. The armor doesn't matter too much, right? But this frees up 2 of the slots. Now here's the problem: is first of all you have to either buy or craft the polar boots, right? So that's some gold cost. And now you're also essentially taking 1 more item away from your raid group. So this alternative, it frees up 2 of the slots to be more defensive, but at the cost of costing your whole raid team 1 extra item going to you, which is the thrusting bands instead of just the Sinner's bindings. So you're essentially taking 1 extra item in your BiS lists by doing this. So another alternative is you could go Deadly Gladiators pieces. This could also stay as the Valorous chest because you don't use that for DPS. However, once you have these other 3, gloves are the first gladiators piece you would want to swap to. They're just a good defensive option compared to the other gloves, but that's a swap up to you. You know, you could swap. You don't necessarily have to swap. You could keep it to your. But then the legs are one swap you want to do to be more defensive. And then shoulders also, so you can free up both of these other 2 slots, still have thrusting bands, and still have polar boots. But then once you have 2 gladiator pieces, I personally decided the gloves are about equal, and then the chest is also a slightly lost, but it activates the 4-piece at that point. It gives you the movement speed increase. I'm not sure yet if this stacks above the 30% you already get from feral swiftness. So if that's the case and this gets you up to 45%, I think that is definitely worth it. But it's also just an extra 150 attack power, right? And so this, again, also a little bit lower hit chance, a little bit lower crit, definitely lower haste, lower attack power, but we're getting up to much closer in terms of the equivalency points, and our defenses are a bit higher. We have more avoidance in this setup, we have more stamina, more health. So that's the other main difference, is here we're at 29.5k, and that's out of form health-wise. If we go to this polar boot setup, we're at 28.4k. If we go to the like full-on bear BiS setup, that's just shy of 29k. And that polar bear setup is also 4.1, or sorry, that's 4.16. This is at 480.9. And then if we go back to having the cat pieces, you can see here we're down. We're like losing 2,000 health, but we're gaining the attack power, right? So that's kind of the trade-off that we're making, is between stamina and attack power, mainly. Those are the 2 main things that we're trading off here. So, and then the main thing is this gladiator thing. Like I said, you could go just 2-piece gladiator, or you could go 4-piece gladiator. Now here's the problem. These gladiator pieces do require arena rating. So this is 1,800 arena rating there. That's 1,750 there, just over 2k there. And here, again, 1,870 for the arena rating. Now, some of these items you can get from VOA, Vault of Archivon, in 25-man. And if you drop them there, you can equip them without needing the arena rating. So, again, you can kind of mix and match here, depending on what you want, what you have available to you, what other slots you want to potentially take away from your raid, what other slots you want to keep for your cat, how defensively you want to gear your bear. Personally, I'm trying to gear as defensively as possible because we want to cut down on healers as much as possible, and that will up the speed kills and the speed times and the DPS by everybody else by dropping down to, say, 2 healers for the next runs and stuff like that. So I'm trying to gear as defensively as possible so I can get away with as minimal external healing as possible if I'm tanking anything. Alternatively, if you're mainly gearing for, you're just an off tank for only a couple bosses, you could probably stick with just having these items as cat items, still use the ice scale leg armor instead of the other things, still use this shoulder enchant. Whereas these other ones, you can see We're able to swap the shoulder enchant. We're able to swap the leg armor. We're able to swap off of nitro boots if we want to. We're able to get stamina on bracers instead of the attack power enchant on bracers. Here we're also gemming strength, stuff like that. And for example, in the other setup here, we're able to gem stamina in the shoulders and in the legs and stuff like that, right? So here we're able to gem stamina. Here we're able to gem stamina. We're able to get stamina in the boots also. But these, again, are just like a big stamina stat stick kind of thing. Notably, if you're trying to do the Saffron achievement, which requires you to be under 100 frost rating, normally that's okay to do if you have just your Mark of the Wild buff, Gift of the Wild buff on yourself. If you have Polar Cord, you're already going to be over that, so you need to choose one between Polar Cord and the buff, and you also can't then use both Polar Cord and Polar Boots, so you would want to boot swap for that, in case anybody is going to make that mistake in the future. Hopefully I preemptively stopped you from making that mistake. Anyway, that's all I got. I might do another one of these videos looking at the primary bear and then off cat perspective, but it's basically going to look like this, except these items would be the you would just have the stamina and stamina gems and stuff in the leggings of the honor, the foot wraps, the shoulders, and the center bindings, basically, for cat. That's basically what it would look like, and then all the other cat items would look identical to what the normal cat BiS looks like, which you could find on Wowhead or whatever, which basically, has the saffron neck, the two-piece helm and shoulders, and everything else, right? Okay, so that's all I got. Hopefully that helps anybody trying to make these gearing decisions. You can kind of choose a midway point between here, whether you're going to go full cat, full bear, or get the Polar Boots or the Dead the Gladiators pieces somewhat in between. The Dead the Gladiators are a pretty big loss in terms of attack power and offensive stats. So in my opinion, this is kind of the worst option. I would probably only go two-piece Gladiator, potentially. I think the Polar Boots is probably the best of both worlds, where you only take one extra item from your raid, but you free up 2 extra slots to be massively more defensive. The legs and shoulders are 2 very big slots in terms of defensives. Legs, obviously have stamina gems or whatever, but they also have the different leg armor, which is also a big source of stamina. So that's kind of unfortunate. So that's maybe a reason you would want to go two-piece Dead the Gladiator for just the legs and the shoulders, and then keep the rest the same. I think that's also probably a really good middle ground option. Or you just stick with the cat pieces. This is also what I'll probably end up going for, just because our raid is very heavy melee, and it's probably going to be a hard sell for your raid to give you 2 bracers that are basically BiS for a lot of melee attack power, agility, DPS people, unless you're getting a lot of duplicates dropping them or something. So that's all I got. Hope that helps.